Hi, everyone, and welcome back this afternoon to the Digital Imperative. So, I'm joined here by the CEOs of two technology companies in tours and activities and attractions based in Asia Pacific. Chris Atkin, the CEO of Resdi, based in Australia, and CC Chan, the CEO and co founder of Global Tix out of Singapore. So, welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I want to get into some kind of tech trends and the roadmap and what we can expect. But I just want to start first because both of you have clients in different markets spread across the region. I know in the case of Resdi, actually around the world. Would just love to get a quick snapshot. Just what are you seeing? Kind of glimmers of light of bookings returning in some quadrants. Chris, can I start with you?
Yeah, sure. As you'd imagine, given our industry being so diverse, there's been those that have really suffered and, have had to close their doors and, or at least wait till 2021 before some sort of natural ability to operate comes back. But then we've seen businesses doing extremely well. Those that have got naturally socially distanced product, sort of boat trips, water sports, and so on, and are able to direct that at a local market. So we're seeing some businesses doing far better than they did because there's really very limited competition, and they've got a local market that's hungry to do things. So, real diversity. But on the whole, we're seeing from we've probably recovered in the last few months back to about 30% below where they would have been last year across our overall customer base. But very much some doing well, some doing poorly.
And CC, what about from Global Tech?
From the view of Global-Tix, if you look at Asia itself, the cross-border is basically non-existent, right? So it's all about domestic. So if you cater to domestic, like aquariums, zoos, gardens, generally you're doing fine, right? There are some attractions that are very catered for tourists. Some of the Thai local cultural shows, floating market tours, these players are still suffering quite badly itself, right? If you ask me to tap on the domestic, if you have to pivot your business, there's two things to do. One is either you make it more family oriented so that families can come, or two, make sure it's very experiential for the couples to come, right? I think these two will help you to beef out your business. Overall, if we look at our clients, it's only about probably 20% back.
So, we just heard just a few minutes ago from KF Lee from Gardens by the Bay about some of the changes that they had implemented, right? And and pretty quickly
Thank
to
you.
facilitate, right? To facilitate advanced booking and to have all of that, and also timed entry, and to facilitate all of that without any more paper tickets and so forth. So that's just kind of one example. I think to me, one of the most interesting things, if we think about the requirements around travel going forward, that's got to impose new requirements from the technology that is powering all of this. So I'd really like to spend a few minutes and walk through, okay, your product roadmap, the future of technology for tours, for attractions. CC, so I'll start with you. What's on your roadmap now that maybe wasn't on your roadmap a year ago, or maybe wasn't as high a priority a year ago that is now super high priority?
Okay, so I start with something very simple first, right? I mean, we roll out Garden by the Bay's capacity management in 3 weeks, right? So the little things that we realized that the contactless where the staff have to see some of the little tweaks, right? Our redemption module used to be a small little green light and a small little red light, right? But what we have done, we tweak it now. It's a huge giant green light with the number 3, number 2, or a red light that doesn't allow people to go in, right? So little tweaks like, for example, corporate membership that you need a secondary check. We started to use sound, right? Beep means you can go in. Beep beep means you have to do a check. That means you can't go in. Little things like that. So we really drill down to look into the experiential part of it. How does the staff cope with post-COVID? So these are the things that we are looking at. Another two more things that we're looking at is that capacity management for a ticket type is very simple, right? Players like Garden by the Bay, where you have two domes, right? It gets a little bit complex. So if you book at 11 a.m. for one dome, and you go to Skywalk at 12 p.m., right? And then your third items, what time, what slot should you book, right? So we have not come up with the solution yet, but this is something that we are planning at to look at capacity management for our packages. The other thing that we are also focusing a lot right now is because of domestic channels, right? We have a marketplace, we help our clients distribute their products globally. We used to focus a lot on the OTAs, we focus a lot on travel agents. But in the last 2 months, increasingly, we are focusing our API connectivity to local marketplace. People like Grab, people like Lazada, Shopee, to expand the network, be not just the global side, but the domestic side as well. So these are
Let
the
me,
few things.
and I just want to pose this one kind of question to you that I also asked KF as well. Uh, in the future, is there ever going to be? I mean, is paper done? Paper tickets, paper vouchers? Is
I
paper going to
hope
make
so.
a comeback?
I don't think so. I think that while paper will be there for people in their probably 70s and 80s, but this COVID has really changed the world. I mean, just look at my parents, right? My parents are technology not savvy, but in order to see their grandkids, he started using WhatsApp videos, right? So I do think that paper ticket will slowly disappear. It's just like airlines. Airlines don't use paper tickets anymore. Hotels no longer have vouchers anymore. So everything is paperless. That's my view.
Uh, Chris, what are some of the features, the functions from a tour operator's perspective that are going to be, essential today and tomorrow that really weren't such a high priority, even just a few months ago?
Yeah, funny. I mean, I'd answer that in two ways. I think that there's always been obviously a really great value in having some technology to help run your business anyway, just from an efficiency perspective and from an ease of being able to get that live availability up on your website and reduce the touch that's there, and that hasn't gone away. But as you say, there are certain elements that become more valuable when you've got this uncertain environment. Making sure you've got the right marketing solutions. We've introduced working with some chat bots to be able to take sales on the website when people aren't around, because you might have reduced touch on phones, address those first level queries. Obviously, a lot more to help ease of cancellations, making sure people have got the voucher capability, keep cash in the business if there's going to be wave after wave over coming years of cancellations, etc. And obviously making sure that people have got easy connectivity to the partners that they work with from a reseller perspective through the RISD marketplace as well. And then, as you were just talking about there, doing our very best to ease out paper from the equation by having the contactless solution, having that QR code on your phone, having the ability to contactless pay, and to be able to sort of board the boat or join the tour very easily. And so we've got a lot of things that are either building on that or very much in that vein.
So, Chris, you mentioned the RESD marketplace, and I know for CC as well with GlobalTix, there's a lot of connectivity in what you do as well as on the ticketing side. I took pains in my presentation just before this to try to very clearly say, okay, this is a reservation system. This is a ticketing system. This is an API. This is a channel manager. But in fact, you guys are both examples of companies that are reservation systems. And I mean, do you call yourselves, channel managers too?
Yeah,
CC?
we do.
You do?
Definitely, we are a channel manager as well as a reservation system. I think why we call ourselves a channel manager, because you can dictate the kind of price you want to sell in different channels, right? So, for example, we've been working with Fliggy, C-Trips, and Players OTA. So you could dictate the kind of price you want to sell for whichever agents you want to sell. I think that is what you call a true channel manager. And I think like what Chris said as well, end of the day, it's technology is all encompassing. So you need to work with as many players as possible, maybe chatbot, maybe finance system, maybe payment gateway. So the future of tech is about open and being connected.
So, Chris, there was an interesting, development just I think a few weeks ago. So Viator had rolled out a quality certification program of sorts for some of the technology companies it connects with. Also, it was very interesting there was a deal announced with Livin, which is a connectivity provider to the industry, with Flight Center, I believe, in Australia. One of the things about that deal that I don't think was publicized too much is that Flight Center was basically saying to tour and activity operators, you have to be on a res system, you have to be connected if you're going to sell through Flight Center. So, when I see these two developments from two resellers or OTAs, I mean, is there a trend there as we think about the future? Or is connectivity, direct API connectivity, or via channel manager or whatever language we want to use, is that really going to define the marketplace?
Yeah, as you say, two different actions, but both with their heart at the same thing, which is that they're two businesses, as we've seen from the press, under massive pressure from the impact of COVID, and so there's nothing quite like a circumstance where your revenues have almost stopped and you're having to make massive cuts on heads to have to think differently in terms of how you operate. And if we take Viator first, those guys have obviously always been ahead of the curve in terms of connectivity. They were certainly Resdy's first connection 6 or 7 years ago, and they've always focused on getting more and more connections and more quantity, and that was their key point of difference against the competitors. And I think they probably realized that actually that long tail is pretty long now, and for them, it's a business quite inefficient to manage. And so I think that their spotlight on quality is, a very understandable one from their perspective, both from an operator's standards perspective, but also from a connectivity perspective. And I suspect that what that could mean or should mean, is that the bar is raised for the source systems, the booking software systems, to either be able to operate and connect into a channel manager and deliver good performance, or it'll be really tough for them to service their customers from a reseller distribution perspective. And then moving on to, sorry.
Oh, so just kind of also, relation to that, one of the things that had been, I think, a very hot topic within our industry over the past, up until I say a year ago, for a couple of years, was a growing interest in dynamic pricing, and kind of it's different for a tour operator, the dynamics versus a ticketed attraction. However, my thinking is, in an environment like this where we're all having to do quite a bit more with a lot less, and that to be able to yield up and just manage our yield on every single transaction would be beneficial to the business. But I haven't heard much discussion about dynamic pricing. Chris, I'll start with you. Was this ever really a trend, or is it more talk, or is there something to this for our industry?
Well, as you say, I think the key thing from our perspective is the yield management piece, and it becomes even more important when you've got lower capacity. And what we've seen in the course of the last few months as recovery has come back, it's that there's been this tremendous shift towards direct rather than indirect. So usually across our platform, direct sales are only about a third of the sales that we see. They're currently 70-75% of what's being booked, because the operator's saying, I can't afford to work with third parties at the moment and give commission away. I'm going to focus on the highest yield sales that I can make. That's obviously a short-term factor. They will return to working with resellers, but like CC and ourselves, they've already got some of that flexibility to manage their price by different channel. When you're using our booking software, you can set your pricing to be different within the day for peak times versus quieter times. You can have weekends priced differently. So there's already some elements of what you would call dynamic pricing there, but obviously there's still plenty of scope to improve that to become as dynamic as something like the low-cost airlines might be in terms of their pricing. But I'm not sure, to be honest, that for many day-to-day operators, that's a really critical level to reach.
CC, I want to close the last question to you, as I've kind of said a couple of times now over the course of the day. technology adoption among operators in Asia Pacific has always been a bit, behind the curve, even though Asian travelers, consumers, seems like have been so far ahead. So why
A
has that
mismatch.
been the case? Yeah. So why has that been the case? And
Mm-hmm.
is it really taking a pandemic like this to make a big change?
Oh, you're putting me in a very tough spot. I would say that yes, there is a mismatch, and part of the reason why there's a mismatch is that a lot of businesses in Asia, they are not so willing to invest in technology previously, right? People like Thailand, in Vietnam, Indochina, because manpower was not very expensive, right? So whatever that technology you can't overcome with technology, you overcome with manpower, right? But post COVID, I think it's very different because, like what Chris said, it's all about instant booking. It's about instant confirmation. It's about what your customer want eventually, right? The customer today wants flexible tickets, wants to be able to adjust their bookings to say, I can't go tomorrow, can I go next week, and things like that. So in the last few months, I would say that Asia is waking up, and many players are now all looking to adopt some form of technology, partly because to improve their own efficiency, and partly also to increase their distribution channels. Right, business still needs to come first.
Well, guys, there's so much that we could talk about around tech. I feel like we're just getting started, but already we have to leave it here. So I'll just say it's nice to see Asia waking up, and I think there's going to be lots more to come. Now let's get the travel going back again. So Chris and CC, thank you so much for joining us.